In the metastases of enjoyment, you lament that we are far from inventing a new formula capable of replacing the matrix of courtly love, creating, therefore, a deadlock in contemporary feminism. Lynn is one of the key feminists in our field. You argue that the semblance of a man serving his lady provides women with a fantasy substance of their identity, whose effects are real. This is a quote. It provides them with all the features that constitute so-called femininity and define women. When women oppose patriarchal domination, they simultaneously undermine the fantasy support of their own feminine identity. And that was you.
Yeah.
But even in relationships conceived as reciprocal, the courtly love matrix still persists, you say. Now, the question is, can you envision a way to escape this deadlock, a way to set aside the courtly love matrix and to move toward a relationship not dependent on patriarchal ideology?
Yes, absolutely. I only think that the right way is not this way of, how should I put it, the main attempt, as I already put it here, the main attempt to escape this patriarchal logic of courtly love, and this logic is more refined than it may appear, because let's not forget that the man is in a false position of serving the lady. No, it's this false elevation of the lady. And my big point would have been that we should be if I were to be a woman, I would be extremely sensitive not to those points where I am directly, in a good old-fashioned male chauvinist way, attacked, but when I am falsely praised. This is, I think, the most dangerous form. I think the most dangerous form of today's anti-feminism. If not, women are less stupid, they should be controlled. But let me give you an example, improvise. It's rather something like in our Cartesian civilization, men tend to dominate and exploit. It's only women who still have this holistic, are capable of this. I mean, this is my standard story. I like to repeat it, that if I were to be a girl, my God, I'm making Freudian slips today, yes, and my boyfriend would tell me, listen, wash my socks, do my supper, you should serve me, I would say, okay, maybe I can retrain him, I stick with him. If I were to be a girl and my boyfriend would come home and to tell me, you know what, I envy you, I'm alienated, Cartesian subject, but you have still you have still this original intuition of wisdom, I would pack my luggage and run away as soon as possible. This is the true danger. This false elevation of the other. And this is also what interests me in my contemporary work. Which is why I find problematic the notion of Eurocentrism. Not that I'm for it, but what we should always remember, it's part of what I'm saying, I didn't lose my thread, I will come back, is that part of Eurocentrism is always the belief, the presupposition that we were somehow deprived of some original jewel of wisdom, which is then to be sought elsewhere. Either in Tibet or with women or wherever, but this idea that the true wisdom is elsewhere, and through a difficult, adventurous journey, we should rediscover it. I think that from the very beginning of colonization, this was at work. From the very beginning of the West, even. Who is the first Western philosopher as such, the big one? Plato. For Plato, as we all know, Egypt was, as it is incidentally today, with all these pyramids, this airport bestseller. Egypt was the place of lost wisdom. And it's interesting how, through all the history of colonization, the very same people who destroyed Tibet, you know, the first occupation of Tibet was not the Chinese one, it was the Englishman in 1904. Right. The same guy who shot Colonel Young Husband, was he called, who had ordered the slaughter of hundreds of Tibetan soldiers, said, I no longer will be able to hate a human person. I felt this deepest spiritual exaltation. So again, the problem is how to break out of this formula of this is the lesson of courtly love, how to break out of this false elevation of the other. Which is why the same goes here in the States, I think, for the Indians, or rather Native Americans. The book that I think was really the best antidote to racism, and that I truly enjoyed. I forgot, unfortunately, its title.
We'll find it.
No. It's a big public bestseller. It tries to totally destroy this myth, which I think it's an absolutely racist myth, that Native Americans had still this sense of organic balance with nature. It simply proves that they were, and as bad as we, that they caused also innumerable ecological catastrophes by killing too many buffaloes and so on and so on. I think this is a very non-racist procedure. This renders them normal. You know, the true, contrary to the slogan that racism Western racism wants to uniform the world. No, I think it thrives on differences. Racism always builds an ideal otherness. For me, the ultimate anti-feminism, again, is not women are less or stupid, but is this idea of the feminine secret, of something in the woman, which, and so on and so on. But again, to return to the question, okay, that's the logic of courtly love. Now, what we are having today is this contractual logic, more and more. This, let's make a contract, equal exchange, and so on and so on. I don't think that this contractual logic really breaks out of it. What I'm trying to elaborate now is, how should I put it? I think that where I see the task of the feminism that I see is precisely, how should I put it? I don't go with those who think that, here I maybe disagree a little bit with Judith Butler, who think that the questions of feminine identity or sexual difference are in themselves, are to be overcome in the sense that it's just a matter of different positioning, restructuring your identity. I think that the question of feminine, how to formulate feminine, I wouldn't say identity, femininity, to use the old-fashioned terms, in a non-essentialist way. And I think that it can be done through psychoanalysis, which, in the sense that I think that here, unexpectedly, I find an alliance in certain radical lesbian attitude. What fascinates me is that the standard opposition is the male master versus the hysterical woman. Hysterical in the sense that she says A, but really she wants B, she doesn't know what she wants, and so on, all these hysterical games. But I claim that there is a certain, let's call it feminine, I wouldn't say identity, feminine subjective position. Above this, a certain coldness, and I don't mean this as a criticism, a certain ruthless coldness, historically embodied in figures like from Medea. If you want to hear my feminine heroes, they are up from Medea to, I don't know how do you pronounce it correctly, from Toni Morrison's beloved, Sita. Yes. You see, this is for me feminine subjectivity at its purest. This ruthlessness, there is something much more cruel and ruthless in feminine. And I even think that I'm even ready to go as far as to say that subjectivity as such in this sense is feminine, that there is a certain violence, and I use here the term violence in a positive way, not to be rejected, a certain violence in establishing yourself through a gesture of abandoning what is closest to you, like Medea or Sita, of asserting yourself as subject, which is, I think, specifically feminine. So I think along those terms that we men cannot do it for women, but that now I'm giving you not so much a matrix how to go beyond patriarchal ideology, but even my philosophical vision, which is my dream is to turn around the standard feminist notion, that Cartesian male subjectivity, and then how to reassert not such a dominant. My idea is precisely to read Cartesian subjectivity as fundamentally feminine, because I claim that this gesture, the Medea gesture, let's call it, of is precisely the Cartesian gesture of abandoning, dropping, letting go what is most substantial to you and emerging then as an empty subject. And again, for reasons that I cannot go on now indefinitely, I claim that this is the feminine gesture. Now, of course, certain feminists would say, but am I not again constructing a certain idealized image of woman? Well, all I can say is that I claim no. I claim that contrary to what appears, it is... let me give you another example from literature, precisely. I was all the time fascinated, where do we find echoes in literature? Because, you know, I'm crazy, I live in literature. I think that real life follows art and so on. There is a certain, how should I call it, feminine way of saying no, of letting the object go precisely when you could have got it. For example, already in the early modernity, Madame de Lafayette, was it Lafayette, I think, Princesse de Clèves. You know when, the love affair, at the end her husband dies, nonetheless, now she would be free to marry her great love, she doesn't do it. Or, for example, at the great mystery at the end of Henry James' Portrait of a Lady, why at the end does she stick to him, and so on and so on. I think that this gesture of, I can have it, but I will not have it, it is wrong to read it as some kind of feminine masochism or whatever. It is a certain truly horrifying dimension of subjectivity, which I think men are too weak to sustain. Men are not able of this, what in philosophical terms I would have called radical negativity. Men need some sacrificial logic, like I'm ready to abandon everything for countryside ideals, whatever, but are you ready to abandon everything for nothing? Only a woman can do this. Okay, now again, you can accuse me. Okay, I accept it, that I'm again constructing some idealized women figure. Okay, but I'll put it in another way. You all know this classical topic, Jean Rivière, femininity masquerade. I love it. I think it's a very feminist thesis. Why? Because precisely what is behind the mask? Nothing. This nothing is the subject. So again, this is the topic on which I'm trying to work. And going back to this patriarchal ideology and so on, I think that I think that already in medieval times we do have an answer. You know where? People, when we speak about courtly love, we always usually refer to the male perspective, the male troubadour, the singer elevating the lady. But you probably know better than me, because I just once read a booklet, that there is also, how are they called, les trouvères, or how, there are also women writing.
That's right.
And you know that it's very interesting to note the difference, which is that in women love writing, they are also complain and so on about their lover, but there is no idealization there. The male version is the lady is perfect and so on. The women's version is, I know my lover smells bad, he betrays me, but nonetheless I cannot. It's a much gentler, nicer attitude in a way. How should I put it? So, to cut a long story short, I think that there is a way to reassert femininity. I think we should stick to it. I think we shouldn't be afraid of claiming that there is something which specifically identifies feminine subjectivity. I'm not afraid here of the term essentialism. The idea that, oh, but then, sorry, you fix it into something and so on and so on. No, I claim it can be done. And I claim that this more than this purely contractual aspect of we just build our identities and so on, we just renegotiate our identities, we reinvent them. I don't believe in that. I think that this contractual logic of exchanges, where it doesn't even matter if you are heterosexual, bisexual, gay or whatsoever, it's just you renegotiate yourself again and again. I think that this, and no longer the standard patriarchal logic, is the predominant logic in sexual exchanges today. So my problem with those who advocate, let's abandon patriarchal logic, let's consider sex as a free field where we renegotiate again and again our identity, is okay, but what's the big deal? You are not saying anything subversive. This is how things are today. And I'm even tempted to say that a little bit of a feminine, how should I put it, essentialism